Hello and welcome to the Michael Mamas Show, Ancient Secrets Revealed. I'm your host, Michael Mamas. We're coming to you from Mount Soma, home of the Sri Sameshwara Temple in the mountains of western North Carolina. It was just Guru Purnima the other night. Guru Purnima is the full moon in July, and it's considered like the most powerful full moon of the year. It's actually quite interesting because even I know when I was a veterinarian, there were more emergencies, more hit by cars, more everything during the full moon in July. And it was interesting, too, because if you talk to nurses who work in emergency rooms in hospitals and that, they're like, oh, yeah, they're fully aware of it. And also, I was visiting a farrowing barn. These farrowing barns are incredible. That's where, pigs have their babies, and it's all on computer. These are huge industries. And you walk into a farrowing barn, it just goes way down. It's like a couple hundred yards, it seems like. Just stall after stall lined up, with sows getting ready to have their pigs. And that's just one farrowing barn in a whole conglomerate of them throughout the nation that are all on computer, all belong to these big, huge companies. So they have it all computerized. And I remember this guy was showing us the computer printout showing that every full moon in July, more sows farrow have their babies. Every full moon in July, just like that. And so it's full moon in July is for real. And so it's interesting that, full moon is very auspicious in the Vedic tradition. And it's called Guru Purnima and it's traditionally when, the guru is worshipped, the guru is thanked. And so it's a very auspicious night. Personally, my tradition on Guru Purnima is about 2 o'clock in the morning because I get up early. I get up 2 or 3 in the morning every morning. And but I go out in the backyard and, look at the moon and just reflect on the auspiciousness of the occasion, And so they talk a lot about, in the Vedic literature, they talk a lot about the guru, and there's nothing higher than the guru. And it's the whole subject of guru, especially these days, but of course always, but the subject of the guru is very, it's an interesting topic because the guru is like a conduit that connects an individual, enlivens the connection of the individual with the depth of their own being, which is one with the totality, Brahman. And the technique for doing that, it's a sublime technique, really. It's not just teaching facts. It's not just giving lectures. It's an ability, really. It's an ability that one has. But these days, it's interesting because, how people go about finding their guru, and what criterion they use. Because the guru, from the perception of the seeker, if you think about it, really tends to be an individual that conforms to the seeker's preconceived notions of what a guru is supposed to be, which is, of course, ridiculous because evolution means change, and particularly on such a sublime level, aligning with the distinction, the discernment required to align with the distinction of what a guru actually is versus what people may think a guru should be, is profound, and it can be extremely subtle. But what you see this, I think, probably all over the world, actually. A lot of times, then, you have to distinguish between a guru and a true guru and a showman, because oftentimes showman, I mean, it's particularly in America, I'd have to say, it's not a very spiritually sophisticated understanding of the whole dynamic, generally speaking, in the West. The East has its problems too, but a showman can conform to the tradition of the commonplace notions of what a guru should be. They can kind of play that game. It's almost like showmanship, flowing robes and all this and that. And it touches people's emotions, and emotions really control people to a great extent. And so they think they, found their guru. So that's one problem. Another problem is, it's all very profoundly beautiful. The guru is the embodiment of the transcendent. And right away, boom, preconceived notions, what that's supposed to look like. But in reality, a guru has the full range of human emotions, personality, the whole thing. And so unless they have a particular personality that seems consistent with people's preconceived notions, why would people think that they're even a guru? They're just some person. And so if they do the New Age cha-cha, so to speak, then people are, oh, wow, okay, this is a guru. It's everything that I believe a guru is supposed to be, And so oftentimes, initially, through the lectures, through the discussions, a real guru, a true guru, can connect a person to that depth. They can awaken them to that depth that dwells within the individual. Not just through spoken word, but, through the meditation they teach. I call it proper meditation. But then as they become familiar on a personal level with the guru, an interesting dynamic happens there. That's why they call it, it's like the razor's edge, You can slip this way or you can slip that way. Off the razor's edge, the path of discernment, as Adi Shankara put it. Spiritual path is a path of discernment, he said. And so seeing the guru behave in a way that's natural for that guru, in harmony with nature, but not consistent with the person's preconceived notions, and right away, oh, that's not my guru anymore. That's not, Even though that guru could have been the one that enlivened that connection with a person. And we're not talking about memorizing facts. We're not talking about emotional indulgence. We're talking about that which lies beyond the realm of thoughts, beyond the realm of emotions. And like that one woman, I've mentioned her before, she put up her hand, and when I said that, well, what else is there? And I said, what else there is the grandeur of the divinity of your own true nature, It's not about thoughts. It's not about emotions. But when people are so caught up in thoughts and emotions, if you can stir thoughts and emotions in that direction, oh boy, I found my guru. And you found a spiritual entertainer, And then there's the whole arena of, like I've talked about, left-handed tantra, where a person can learn these techniques where they basically, you call it hypnosis, call it energy manipulation, chakra manipulation, call it whatever you want. But it sort of memorizes or throws into, call it a trance state, or just a manipulation of the mind. And that's a very common pitfall. The people, oh, I found my guru. Why do you think, oh, it's so incredible and everything? But all they did is tear open your third eye, for example, you know. So it's a very, very subtle thing. But the whole dynamic, the true path of spiritual evolution, it's like there's the seed, the core, the transcendental absolute depth of pure silence. It's the source of sound, and sound is everything. Sound creates the computer I'm looking at, the microphone, the camera, you, me. It's really all the mechanics of sound. And so out of silence emerges sound, the sounder, the rishi value, he who births sound. And so from the sounder comes the process of sounding, and all this, the seed of this, the root of this, all takes place actually within the absolute, in the unmanifest. And then it emerges into relativity and births relative existence. So the sounder, through the process of sounding, creates the sound, which creates relative existence. I hope that makes sense. That makes sense, huh, Scotty?
Yes.
Okay. Now, enamored by the relative, and it is enamoring, it's wondrous, vast, huge, infinite, incredible. So it's easy, as one is born into relativity, to get lost into relativity and we could say their perspective on it, their conditioning, the programming of their mind, the samskaras, if you will, impressions on the mind. But as the grip of that thins out, that's the process of evolution. And so then it gets to the point where the individual is coming from that atma, that point, that level of their being that is at the very source of all existence. Existence manifests out of the atma. You can think about that one for a while. The individual, and it wells up then through the process of unfoldment, through the dynamics created by sound, to manifest the universe. And as the storehouse of impressions thins, if its grip on a person's awareness loosens and melts away, then the individual functions and perceives in a manner consistent with the infinite harmony, intelligence, wisdom like that's contained within the absolute itself. And it's the guru that facilitates that process. And it's an odd thing because, you look out and you see the same tree, you see the same sky, you see the same everything. And I remember once I was being interviewed, well, how's it different, I remember I threw out a one-liner that I probably shouldn't have because threw them, But I said, it's completely the same, it's just totally different. And they go, well, that doesn't say anything. They kind of got a little belligerent. But it's true, actually. And the way it's totally different is that there's that, you don't lose the sense of the divinity of the Atman, even on the very surface of perception of life. You see it, all of this relative, the same tree, the same sky, but now it's slightly etched on the face of totality, the face of being, your own being. You are that, I am that, thou art that, all of this is nothing but that. It's your experience. It's not a thought, it's not something you can, oh yeah, I can see that, I get that. No. It's deeper. And it changes everything. It's completely the same, but it is totally different. See, it all starts, that manifestation process starts with the first syllable of Rig Veda, right? Ah. And then it all comes out of all the, looking at it from the perspective of physics, all the quantum mechanical, quantized particles, bits, all the syllables of the Veda, you see? All emerge out of And it's compared to if you're outside a football stadium, all the fans are cheering, 100,000 people, whatever. You just hear you just hear the ah. But if you go into the stadium and stand next to this person or that person, then you start hearing the syllables that have contributed to, that make up, that are composition pieces of ah. And so as the cobwebs clear in one's awareness, that's your experience of everything. You look at the computer, and that computer is one with the Absolute, and you are one with the Absolute. So I am that computer. Everything is one with the totality of all knowledge. All knowledge is contained within that clock in front of me. It's all there. All knowledge. So using common language, you say that clock is God. Everything is God. But not conceptually, oh yeah, it's all God. No. It's a physiological experience. It's a perception. Without the understanding, you might look at the clock and, what's going on here, and that clock, you might say, like, it's a messenger from God. It's a messenger of God. Trying to put words to it. And you see, that's then a real value of a guru, is it helps a person through that process. First introduces them, a level of intellect, a level of emotion, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, okay. But as it deepens, and the understanding deepens. And as the experience deepens, the understanding can become more and more clarified by the guru. And then there are all those stumbling blocks along the way. Oh, well, if he was a real guru, he wouldn't do this or do that, or he would do this and he doesn't do this. So he's, it's a delicate path, Somebody asked me about freedom. It relates to this beautifully, The guru is the gateway to freedom. Relativity. What is lack of freedom? Bondage. What is bondage? Bondage is when you see the parts but not in context of the whole. And I'm not speaking it conceptually here. But you get so caught up in your paradigm perspective of reality that you lose touch with reality. And that's bondage. But now even that, see, these things are so hard to express in words, because you might say, well, then if there's a real guru, there would be no bondage. He would have no emotions, and whatever was happening in the relative, it wouldn't matter, wouldn't affect him. And you could even find verses in the Veda, oh yeah, it doesn't touch the self and stuff like that. But what we're talking about there is the transcendental self. And that's why I compare it to like the tail is on the kite. The tail is not disturbed even when the kite is soaring or whatever it's doing. So the guru is still has on the surface of life human emotions, the full range of human emotions, but it's rooted in the absolute, which changes it completely. But now when it's observed by a student, they don't have the reference frame. Their reference frame is their identity. And so if they're stable, or if the guru is stable, or if the guru is functioning in harmony with nature, and the observer is not, well, the observer is spinning, but from the perspective of the observer, it's all relative, right? They're stable, and it's the guru that's spinning. And so that can't be the guru, you know? And that's just how it works. It's highly elusive. The level of enlightenment that exists when a being is functioning in perfect accord with natural law, and thereby the fluctuations of the personality become tempered, so to speak. Now we're talking about the personified correlates, the embodiments of the stars in the sky, the immortals, you know. And even they, from the perspective of the perceiver, can't possibly be enlightened because they're not dancing to the tune of one's preconceived notions. The guru is the teachings. And I know when I was around my teacher, one thing I did, and I'm glad I did it, is I never judged, I observed. And just spontaneously, you know, if there was something that was done that was inconsistent with my preconceived notions of how they should behave, I didn't judge them, but I learned from it. And I pondered it. Well, they're behaving this way, and they're this great enlightened being. How does that adjust my mindset? How does that adjust my belief systems? How do I assimilate that into a deeper understanding of the nature of existence? And all of that, their teachings, their behavior, and the assimilation of all that became my teachings, really. Um, so when you come from the seed, the root, the Atman, the foundation, and allow things to emerge out in a manner that is consistent with that, you know, like they say, the rose, the blossom comes out of the seed, comes out of the bud, like that. And so with Mount Soma, what we've done from the very beginning is planted that seed, nurtured that seed, behaved in a manner to cultivate that seed, kind of like a gardener in a way. And so, see, when you do that, it's well begun is half done, they say. Because when the seed leads, and when the gardener follows the natural unfoldment of the seed, then all knowledge is there before it even manifests fully into relativity, because it's all contained there. It's all in the bud at that point. And that's what we've been so dedicated to in Mount Soma. We create a place, it's called a enlightened city. We create a space through which that the value of that totality wells up in an uncompromised manner. But it's welling up through what? It's welling up through relativity, through whatever negativity or global consciousness. And if you just look at the news, you'll know the state of the global consciousness. And so how is that met? It's met with resistance. It's met with judgment. It's met with opposition. And so that's why steadfastness is essential. You stay on point. And let the winds of karma blow through your hair as it does. But you have to remain uncompromised. That level of the absolute, you see. Scotty, I think that's about it, unless you want to add anything.
No, that's great.
It's just a matter of seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I see. That's an expression we say. You explain something to somebody, say, oh yeah, I see. But seeing is such a deep, it's pasha. It's just see. Just look and see. It's just, but it's not that simple. It's just that simple, but it's not that simple because of our preconceived notions, our identities, our conditioning, our programming, the stress in our physiologies like that.
But there's that feeling that you get though when, I see, like.
You touch, that's so right, Scott. We transcend all of this on a daily basis if we meditate or not. And that's that, just like you said.
Right.
What happened in a moment there, you transcended, you touched into it. Beautiful. Yeah. That's why I like to say my favorite emotion is fascination, because when you become fascinated with something, it's, I see, Okay, that's good, Scotty. That's a good comment. Yeah, thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody, thanks for listening, and we will talk with you again next week.